So I'm going to start this by telling you all that this is the truth, the absolute eternal truth, to the best of my knowledge, to the highest degree of what I both successfully practice and have even been highly successful with, and the best of my knowledge is being shared here with you, dear viewers, guests, friends, family, and visitors. You're all highly welcome. Here's the thing. In life, we are highly recommended to practice what is called self-mastery. And this is basically living according to a basic amount of law and order that stems from the Creator, who is the highest good overall, and thereby making our wills obedient to good divine inspiration and guidance, and also divine wisdom, and having divine, legitimate, authentic wisdom be our guide in life. We thereby operate scientifically, science being defined as the proper application of wisdom. And this thing, like self-mastery, and the thus resulting actual ability and successful accomplishment of mastering your life and your destiny, actually is really simply as follows. All the time, you have to be self-disciplined a little bit so that you make decisions from the most minute to the most massive, using wisdom. Now, to be more precise, all of life is absolutely, totally, perfectly ordered aright by the Creator, who in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God geometrized. And also, He made everything so that it would be potentially and ultimately plus perfect. It hinges upon us, like I said, making our divine free will obedient to good divine inspiration and guidance, and having self-discipline and the ability to master ourself, our life, and our good divine destiny. And one of the most basic examples of how this is done is actually as follows. See, every one of us human beings is always within about 9 different cycles of life that are relevant and that are important to monitor on a daily basis or on a tri-hourly basis, like every 3 hours at best. The more one monitors the life cycles that one is in, let's say every day or every 3 hours of the day, as it is possible, the more one has an exact overview of the cycles of life that one is in at any given point in time. And this is like being able to see for the next 3 hours, then in addition to that for the next 3.5 days, and in addition to that for the next 52 days, and in addition to that for the next 7 years, and then for the next, 100 years or more, based on whatever your age is. You just subtract that from 144, and that's about how many years you have remaining during this physical earthly existence. So the longest cycle of life being the simple overall period of human life from 0 to 144 years. And during that, you have a soul personality based on your birthday, right? That describes you as a soul and your personality and so on, with your strengths and plus points and so on. And then you have the annual life cycle period of 365 days. That is always starting on your birthday. And this is divided into 7 approximately 52-day segments making up about 365 days. And that's the same every year. And then you have the 3.5 day long lunar units that alternate between negative and positive. And then you have the 3 hour short lunar units that alternate between negative and positive. And then you have the daily periods of the cycles of life that are 3 hours and 25 minutes approximately in length, whereof there are 7 every day, and 7 days makes us strong, right? And rest from creative work on the 7th day, from, let's say, Friday evening sunset to Saturday evening sunset. So now, as we go, what we are, in fact, highly recommended to do is to pay attention to the life cycles that we are in, preferably every 3 hours during the day, because that way we know exactly what cycles of life are going on and that we are in, and we can also act and make wise decisions that lead to the maximum amount of health and wealth and benefit, and also accomplish the highest good overall in the best interest of, and leading to the best results in state of existence, even sustainably, for all of God's creatures and creation and humanity. This is self-mastery. Now, it's like a daily discipline where it requires a little bit of time and effort. And if that time and effort is put in at the right time to begin with, during the right life cycles to start with, then it also is easier and more successful automatically than it would be at other times. And this is the case with everything in life. So knowing this now, we can simply be wise and coordinate the activities that we have in our lives to be accomplished at the right times, where there's a maximum automatically, systematically available amount of divine providence that leads to the best possible results and outcomes in our lives, right? And the maximum success. What I'm telling you all is a fact. This is something that could be quite simply compared to a man who has a tide chart, and he's standing at the ocean, and he knows when the tide is coming in and when the tide is going to go out. And so he can go to and fro, utilizing all the existing providence and additional support. And it is in fact written that he that mastereth himself is mightier than him that taketh a city, folks. So if you can actually start to master yourself and discipline yourself a little tiny bit, right? Practice being able to literally force yourself to refrain from something in small steps, leading to a very important and probably the most important capability of self-mastery, and that is to actually have, let's say, the highest possible amount, gradually have the highest possible amount of mastery over yourself, your urges, ideas, impulses, ideas, deeds, words, deeds, actions, etc. If you can do this, you've basically got it all generally mastered through the original and basic working method to begin with, so to say. So if you can exercise self-discipline and restraint of yourself and refrain from certain things at certain times, if necessary, it's like you already have the most important skill to actually master your life and your destiny. Why? Because there's a certain time and a place for every, thing in life, and being able to coordinate how you live with wisdom, that gives you wise scientific operation and maximum success and benefit and health and wealth and blessings, and that sustainably. This is a fact, okay? So the thing is that if you have an idea, an urge, or an impulse, or a desire to do something, or to eat something, or like something, and then you think about it, okay, is that wise? It is a risk, an unnecessary risk. Okay. Be prudent. Don't take an unnecessary risk. It's hard sometimes, yet better to be on the safe side. So, like, you got to be able to be self-disciplined so that you make decisions that are wise and responsible in accordance with self-mastery guidance, or what God indicates is wise and a wise course of action. If you do this, you're always safe. But see, it takes the ability to be able to actually force yourself. It's almost like being patient, having the ability to force yourself to be patient, and then to actually refrain from something, and then to be active with it at a certain time. So, like, for example, listen, very, very simple example, yet very, very important and powerful example of this is the following. There is a time of the year within every person's annual life cycle period where automatically it is the case that in the health life cycle, it is better not to make decisions or to do things that lead to any type of strain on the immune system that is unnecessary. So in other words, there are times of the year when the human, within the annual life cycle period, that's every year, always starts on your birthday, right, is automatically more immune to just all the different things in the environment and has a stronger immune and health maintenance system. And at other times of the year, there's a time when it's critical that you pay attention to not unnecessarily put any burden on your immune system. What is that like? Okay. Going to places that are crowded, trains, buses, airplanes, restaurants, all these places where there can be things that are difficult for the immune system to protect against. So there's a time of the year when you got to keep an increased amount of hygiene and protection of your immune system and maintaining your health and avoiding any kind of impurities from the environment or things that could be classified as germs or things like that are unnecessary, that are not good. So then this equates, okay, so you can't go to restaurants without taking a risk. You can't go and take a bus, a train, an airplane, be in crowded places without taking a risk that is unnecessary. So what do? You do what is wise and you avoid these things that are to be avoided during these, let's say, 52 days of, let's say, the 7th annual life cycle period, where the immune system is, stronger during all the other times of the year. Okay. But so look, read all about this in a book called Self-Mastery and Fate with the Cycles of Life, and you'll get what I'm talking about. Okay.